district propositions, and then finish with Q&A. So a lot of you, this is your first time probably hearing about the budget, but if you go to our website, from budget, guidelines, calendar, newsletter, and all the various documents, all of our presentations, you will see that on our website, as well as some additional information for any of the disclosures we have to do by law. You'll see everything on our website if you want to look at step by step in terms of how we got to a $20 million budget. You can see it there on our website. So again, home of champions, we have roughly 799 students. Actually, we project next year about 805. So roughly 400 in the elementary school, 400 in the middle and high. And very proud to say this is the first year that both all of our schools, elementary, middle, and high school, were all U.S. News World Report outstanding schools. A little bit about our census data. So again, projecting 803 this year, 803. Employee data, 127 full-time employees, 29 part-time employees. We have 87 teachers. You know, back in 2000, we were about 110, 112. Just with reduced enrollment, that's where we're at currently. 61 support staff members, and that's everybody from our bus drivers, food service workers, to our cleaners. Administrators, directors, and supervisors of the entire operation, there's 8 of us, and we have a total of 156 employees. So the budget highlights, again, a little over $20 million. Here are the things that are within this budget. We're able to maintain our entire pre-K-12 program. So again, our goal is to employ highly qualified and dedicated teachers. We did have one staff reduction. The young lady transferred from a teacher aides position to a different position, and we are not filling it. So in essence, we cut one position from this budget. We will be providing funding for 2 school resource officers, as well as 2 ENL teachers in this budget for our English as a new language students, as well as for safety and security in our elementary school. If you recall, last year at this time, the board made it pretty clear to me that they would like to have additional SRO in the elementary school. So we've had it all year this past year. However, we never budgeted for it. This budget does include 2 SROs. So we have 13 advanced AP classes. I think they were testing again today for AP. Additional 13 college level courses. And again, trying to provide a meaningful experience for our students so as you go off into college and so forth that you are prepared with rigorous coursework. We were able to preserve all of our art, music, and athletic programs in this budget. As I mentioned earlier, the resource officers, we have provided funding to implement financial literacies in grades K through 12. We actually have a program in the middle school, it's embedded, in the elementary school, and it's embedded in our middle and high school, so financial literacy program. A comprehensive technology program, which includes one-to-one devices, Chromebooks, active boards, and so forth. We've been able to fund that within this budget. Adheres to our state tax cap. So this year is 2.65. You'll see in upcoming slides. For the last, I think, 13, 14 years, we've been able to do that. Approximately 60,000 breakfasts and 98,000 lunches were served this year. As everybody's well aware, I think starting in December 1st, all lunches are now free for our students due to our poverty level. So we have STEAM enrichment opportunities, especially in the elementary school. We're also, part of our capital project is developing this curriculum to meet our student needs. So again, maintain small class sizes. We have 16 varsity sport teams, 30 clubs and activities. We have more enrichment opportunities than ever before around science and math. Support for our All Vegas bullying prevention program, and additional funding for ELA and science curriculums. So high quality transportation services. We basically have 22 buses that run out every day to keep our kids safe, as well as get them to and from their academic programs. So we have a $100,000 capital outlay project that happens every year. This year we will be replacing the sidewalk, basically the diagonal sidewalk that connects the elementary and middle and high schools, and also some abatement in the basement of asbestos. So again, this budget does protect. We have money in our budget to take care of everything with regards to safety and security for our students, regarding our facilities and infrastructure. And we will have summer school program for all of our students that need either an intervention or some sort of enrichment opportunity. PD for our professional and support staff so they can further their education and be good for our students and meet all of our legal requirements by law.
Before I get to Proposition 1, I noticed some faces when we said asbestos abatement. Don't worry, none of the asbestos has been disturbed, so please do not worry about that. This is just for future reference to avoid it because it is in our cafeteria. Or below the cafeteria.
Basement,
Yeah, basement of the cafeteria. Sorry, I'm making it worse. So Proposition 1, this is when we're going to vote on the school budget. So the school budget, $20,605,985. The reason it's just so important to get to the dollar is school districts cannot spend more than that without the board's approval. So different components make up the budget. The first one is your general support. So if you look at an appropriation status, this is all your 1,000 codes. General support is mainly your district office, so the superintendent's office, office of the business office, and the biggest one is your buildings and grounds. So this is all your cleaners, custodians, maintenance mechanics, and all the supplies that go into keeping our buildings and our fields updated. So right now we're looking at a 5.98% increase up to about just over $2.6 million. Instructional, this is why we're here. This is the main part of our budget. That's going from 10.8 to 11.2. This is mainly your teachers, all your teacher supports, your nurses, your guidance counselors, all that is in these codes. Everything teacher related except for benefits for those teachers. Transportation is the easy one. It's all your transportation, so this is all your salaries, your contract transportation costs, your fuel, and all the costs associated with running our buses and our department. Community services, that is going down from 17,000 to 10,000. That is through attrition. We were able to stipend out that position instead of having it part of somebody's duties, so that's why you see a big decrease there. And employee benefits, so this is what rises every year. It's our health insurance, FICA, ERS, TRS expenses. Luckily, it's only going up 1.3%. To calculate this, we look at the budget and we take a snapshot of the health insurance bill, so it's accurate at that time. And that's going up about, what was that, about $50,000 there. Debt service. So the big thing when you see that $20,605,000, it's really only about a $270,000 increase from last year's budget, 1.17%. That's not up with inflation. If anybody sees inflation over the last 2 years, you had 8%, you had 4%. The main reason is your debt service. So this is all the interest and principal that we owe on any bonds or bans that we have outstanding, which is capital projects or buses. That is dropping, but also is our aid dropping. So that's, we paid off a ban or a bond at the end of this school year, so it is not on the books for next year, and that's why you see the decrease there.
So our capital outlay project, as I already mentioned, we're exterior concrete, so we're looking to replace this sidewalk, also the sidewalk across, leading from the music areas to the parking lot, to make sure that they're commercial, so in essence 7 feet. Right now, they're the traditional 36-inch, which is residential, and also the abatement of asbestos that's in the basement. So every dollar, where does your money go to? Take a look at that. So every dollar that we spend here in the district, you can see the percentage of that. Nearly 70 cents goes to your staff, your salaries. Obviously, we're in the people business, and you can see where the rest of that money is spent. Most usually either through contracted expenses or for students who are taking an academic program, and that be special ed, career and tech, whatever the programs that they need to be successful. And you can see where the rest of the money is being spent based on a dollar.
So overall, this shows you a line-by-line comparison from the prior year to the current year, 23-24 compared to 24-25. So you can see the budget is going up just over that 270,000 mark at 1.17%. Revenue side, whenever you put a budget together, zero-based budget, your revenues have to equal your expenses. So this is where our revenue lies. 2.99% increase in property taxes. As Mr. Molisani said, our tax cap this year is 2.65%. So you might say, hey, why is it going up 2.99 if taxes are only going up 2.65? That is also because there's sales tax and pilots in that. Pilots are outside companies that moved here for a reason to get that tax incentive, and they're setting up shop, providing jobs to people in the community. So those pilot agreements are going up year after year.
But just want to reiterate, taxes itself is projected 2.65
Correct.
for our residents.
Absolutely. State aid, so state aid, the big reason you see a decrease here is building aid, which is related to that debt service that I talked about. You see a decrease there. Foundation aid, they actually came out and said the governor is putting together a new formula for next year. That's going to be decided on in December, so we're all anxiously awaiting to see what that's going to be. Federal aid, you got local revenues there, and then our appropriated fund balance and reserves is what we rely on out of our savings account or our rainy day money, just in case we need to dip into there. So here's our tax cap. The governor mentioned when they put this into law 13-ish years ago that it's 2%. That is not true. So there's one factor that's 2%, it's the rate of inflation, or 2%, whichever is less. And this year, the rate of inflation was 4%, so we were capped at the 2. This long formula dictates what our cap is, and as long as we go out at the cap or under the cap, we need a simple majority to pass the vote, which is 50% plus one vote. If we were going out higher than 2.65, we would need a vast majority, supermajority as they call it, and you need 60% to pass that. So we are at or below our tax cap, as Mr. Malasani said, for the last 13 years in existence. So simple majority is all that we need to pass this vote. Our star exemptions. So every town in each school district has a different way that they calculate star, and it changes every year. So for example, one town might have a $29,700 star. The way you calculate that for a refund is you divide it by 1,000, multiply it by the tax rate. Whatever that number is what you save on star. However, it is maxed out at those dollar amounts you see up there. So if you do that calculation, as I said, in Caledonia, and you're the basic star, and it comes out to 500 or 504, you're only going to see a $483. Those are set by the state, not by the school district. So it shows you if you're basic or enhanced, what your maximum exemption amount is going to be on your tax return, or on your taxes. Proposition 2 that we ask the voters to vote on is transportation. So every year we try to replace a bus just to stay current on our replacement plan. We are looking for one 66-passenger school bus at a cost not to exceed $180,000. We got quotes on this bus. The cost is way under $180,000. The reason we put it in there up to 180 is because buses now are subject to quarterly PMI increases, so we want to be ready just in case those prices go up. But we're estimating to spend right around $150,000 for a bus. And then the 2.65, how will it affect your taxes? This is a tough one. Unfortunately, we don't know until the taxes are set. So every town has an equalization rate and an assessed value. Based on what those assessors choose to do with the assessed value, and based on what the state says with the equalization rate, determines what your taxes are going to either increase or decrease. If we leave everything consistent and say assessments are going to stay flat and the equalization rate is going to stay flat, which is the best information we have at this time, a 2.65% increase on a home valued at $100,000 with a basic $30,000 star, you're looking at a $28 a year increase, or $2.33 a month. And then for a home assessed at $150,000 with that same basic star, you're looking at $48 a year, or about $4 per month.
Again, here's just our voting history, as well as our percent of tax levy changes and budget to budget over the last 10 years. Just show that as a reference so you can see where we've been and potentially where we're going. No surprises there. So what happens if the budget is not approved? Hopefully that's not the case. But if that were to be the case, the board has the option to submit one additional vote or one additional budget for the community to consider. And should that pass, then whatever the budget is, that's what you run with. If the second budget is defeated, that would result in the adoption of a contingency budget, which basically states that it's 0% from last year. So if our tax levy was,
$7.75 million.
So say we collected $7.5 million from our community, that's all we could collect for next year, the 24-25 school year, is at $7.5 million. There's a couple exclusions with respect to administrative costs as well as equipment, but hopefully that doesn't come into effect. So again, if it's defeated, it's out for the second time, it's a 0% tax levy impact.
And just to add on, Mr. Malsani, with the contingent budget as well, there is the school district would have to charge a fee for communities to use our facilities as well.
Yeah, again, it's not a Calmon rule, but rather a state rule. So we also have 3 Board of Education members, 3 seats that are open, and Peggy Roll, Becca McNear, and Michael Balnick will be running for 3 seats in uncontested race. And here shortly, they'll be sharing the reasons why they want to be, why they want to be, or sit on that side of the table and work with our children and our adults in our school community. So please exercise your right to vote on May 21st, next Tuesday from 12 to 9 o'clock at the district office. And at this time, I would like to open up for questions. Any questions regarding the budget? Yes?
As you've been putting sports teams together with other schools, how has that affected our budget?
So in the past, I would say our relationship with Byron Virgin, we were charging a fee because we were the host school. So they would actually pay to be a part of our program. So then that was specifically for football. With our relationship with Leroy moving forward in the fall, we are sharing the expenses.
They share staff?
Shared staff, sharing all the expenses, whatever the costs are in the program, basically divided by 2.
So do they, the number of our staff stay the same and Leroy's stay the same?
No, so I think we have 10 coaches between the 3 programs. So 10 coaches, projected possibly 11, depending on the number of modified student athletes. And that was the number when we first, it's the same number of coaches which we had when we had Byron Virgin in all 3 programs here at Caledonia, maybe 2016 for the first year. So it's the same number of coaches. So it's not the same staffs, no.
And although we lose that revenue from Byron Virgin, we're also sharing all the services. Every time we turn on those lights out there for a football game, there's a pretty big cost with that because those bulbs are, it takes a while to heat up over there too. So half the games hopefully will be over there, shared services with chaperones as well, referees, so there will be cost savings there as well.
Mr. Roll?
Question about the bus proposition.
Yes.
Have you ever looked at using smaller buses than the 66 size, and or do you know the average number of students you carry per bus now?
Off the top of my head, I don't know necessarily the average. I know we film at capacity at 90% by state law, so no more than 90%, you have to have a 10% threshold. So, for instance, if I have a student that drives to school, but we still have to make a route to go by their home because they didn't give in time, and they're outside 2 miles. And if they didn't get in time, they need to get on the bus, we have to have that provision of that 10% flexibility. So we try to maximize that at 90%. Definitely your routes in the district, or excuse me, in the village are more heavily populated, just so that we can get kids in and out a lot quicker. Whereas if you're going out into Clifton and so forth, the bus run itself is going to be near an hour, and we may only have 35 or 40 kids. What was your first question?
Did you consider
small buses.
Smaller size bus?
We look at that every year. We're on a bus purchasing plan, so I think we're up maybe another 5 or 6 years where we purchase 2 smaller buses. Yes. So we have 2 smaller buses and a couple courier vans.
Yep.
Courier vans for like single students or 2 or 3 students.
And our transportation director is always looking at that. If we have a far trip, obviously with a few kids on it, we don't want to send a big bus because more cost and fuel, it goes through fuel a lot faster. So we do send those smaller bus or those courier type vans.
And the bus that we're replacing would be minimum of 13 years old. So basically, we've always said, as the child enters kindergarten, when they graduate, we buy a new bus, and as they graduate, we retire the bus. A lot of times it stretches 13, 14 years before we actually retire, but you're looking at a bus, either one has quite a few years on it, or 2, with our weather around here, is starting to deteriorate, it's no longer safe. Yes?
What's the fuel they're running on?
Right now, the fuel is diesel.
It still is?
It is.
Haven't made you convert?
Well, we are required by law to convert after 2027. We can no longer purchase a combustible engine, and by 2035, our entire fleet needs to be electric, as the law is written today. Not sure if it's actually going to happen, but regardless, as a district, we are planning to have some money in our reserves potentially to take care of that.
That would be much more expensive.
Way more expensive. You're upwards of $400,000 a bus.
Actually, I think $180,000 for a big bus is a drop in the bucket compared to going out and buying a brand new pickup truck.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things that, now I'm kind of my soapbox here, the community has to approve that bus purchase. And what happens when they say no? They don't want to spend 400, because you have to finance that bus now over 12 years. Currently, we finance buses over 5, and we receive aid over 5 years. It's going over 12 years.
And the bus isn't even gonna last 12 years. You're gonna have to buy a new battery in 8 years, so.
Maybe you should.
So I don't want to go there, but yes, we are preparing for that. That may get kicked down the road, but we're still preparing for it. Any other questions? Mr. Martel?
What was that like star acceptance that you talking about?
Star exemption? Go ahead.
Yeah, so based on the town, they'll come out and say you get a $30,000 exemption if you qualify for Basic Star. Most home buyers qualify for the Basic Star. Enhanced Star is based on your age. There are different requirements based on the star. But if you have Basic Star, you'll either get what's called a tax credit or a rebate check. Now I think they switched it to just getting a rebate check in the mail instead of credit on your tax bill. Could be the other way around, but it's one of those. And it's just a savings to help you offset your tax bill.
So if your house was assessed at $100,000, they reduce it $30,000 right out the gate. So you pay taxes on, yes, on $70,000.
Because the way the taxes work is you take your total assessed value divided by 1,000, that's just the rule, and then you multiply that by the tax rate, and then that's your total tax bill. So if your assessment gets lowered by the star, you will pay less in taxes. But then it's maxed at those dollar amounts there.
Anybody else?
Maybe expand that a little. How do you qualify for enhanced star?
So it's based on age. I don't want to tell you the age and be wrong off the top of my head, but pretty much if you hit a certain age, you can qualify for Enhanced Star, and you have to contact the star agency through the state. There's actually a whole website for that, and that's something I think we have posted on our website. If not, I'll make sure it's up there so people know exactly where to go and how to apply for that.
And it's age and income.
Age and, yes.
So it's a combination. Yes.
Always forget that.
So we're gonna do a pretty good deal.
So in the past, everybody qualified for, if it was your original residence, unless you were a farmer, but you received your 30,000 deduct. I think the law changed maybe 3 years ago. You now, as a resident, have to apply for it in order to receive it. It's not automatic. So usually your banks will tell you that, and your schools, if you're moving into the district, we would advise you to actually put together an application and submit it. Anything else for good of the order? If you have any questions, please email me or myself or Mr. Nardone will answer those. Again, please join us next Tuesday for the vote. And I was in Mr. McMillan's class yesterday. I think for some of our seniors, it'll be the first opportunity that you'll have to exercise your right to vote. So you're going to have 2 or 3 that will turn 18, if I remember correctly. So please join us. Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So now we'll be moving to meet the candidates tonight. So if Mike, Peggy, and Becca would like to join us up here, I'm going to have Dr. Chanel facilitate, be the moderator for this. So the questions that were put together by Mr. McQuillan's economics class, not this year's class, but previous classes. Dr. Chanel, take it away.
What's that? I got a mohawk? I saw that. Can you believe it?
What is that? A microphone?
It's just it's very good.
You don't make too much noise.
Oh, you guys have notes.
Yeah.
It's nice.
If I don't have notes, I don't know what I'm going to say.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Thank you for joining us for this portion of the evening where we are going to meet the 3 school board candidates. The first question that I'm going to ask, I'll actually start with Mr. Belinek. Mr. Belinek, and I will ask the same question straight across the board. But first with Mr. Belinek, will you just introduce yourself a little bit to the audience and talk a little bit about your skills, your qualities, and the experiences that you'll bring that are going to make you a great board member?
Thank you, Dr. Chanel. I'm Michael Balinek. I own Mumford Dairy and Meat in Mumford. I am the parent of 2 kids. I went to college, kind of a unique path. I went to college to be a teacher. I was inspired by teachers like Mr. McQuillan. to pursue that path. Didn't work out that way. I ended up buying the family farm. But that experience, I feel like, has been very valuable. It helps me have empathy towards the teachers and the staff, and also, you know, having my kids in district, I kind of feel what's going on. Yeah, it's been an experience. So the combining business experience with my college education has, I feel, served me well in this position.
Margaret, I'll ask you the same question. What skills, qualities, and experiences do you bring with you to make you a great board member?
Well, I have gray hair. Does that count? We have 5 kids, and they've all gone through at least some years here at Caledonia. And they're all up and out and doing very well. In fact, our youngest just graduated from medical school this weekend. And I come over here every once in a while into the hallway and find the OM trophies there with my kids' names on. So you guys are in a good school, and there are lots of good programs here and lots of good teachers, and I think you'll be well prepared for college. The kids have done well.
Thank you. Mrs. McNair, the same question. What skills, qualities, and experiences do you bring with you that will make you a great school board member?
Okay, I'm Becca McNair. Before I answer the question, Dr. Schnell, I just want to say I have sick kiddos at home, so that is why I have my phone and I keep checking it. So I apologize if I'm a little rude here, but I want to make sure that no one is throwing up in my house. As I said, I have 5 children that all attend school here in Kalamam, 1 in the high school, 1 in the middle school, and then my youngest 3 are all in the elementary school. I trained as a veterinarian. I worked as a dairy veterinarian in this area, mostly in Wyoming, Genesee, and Erie counties for over a decade. And I feel my experiences both dealing with teachers and staff and the activities going on in the school, as well as dealing with the business side of things in a farming community like Caledonia, really have given me the advantage and the ability to see where people are coming from and what is going on in this district that will serve me well to be a member of the school board.
Thank you. Mr. Belinek, back to you. What areas of our school need the most improvement in your opinion, and specifically, what do you hope to change?
It takes, so let me start by saying this. I feel like it was nice for us to have something to discuss tonight as a board. I feel like you got a little taste of, you know, how we need to build consensus to move something forward. It's a collaborative effort between all of us, and there's kind of, you know, it needs to be one vision and goal for the benefit of all the students, being mindful of the fiscal side of it for the community. People spend a lot of money to facilitate what we have here. One thing that's kind of been a goal for me is providing, and we did make this one of our board goals last year, is providing a more robust education in the music and arts. I feel like, not to take anything away from athletics, but those opportunities are prevalent, and sometimes having opportunities in music and arts for young kids can kind of springboard them to, you know, things like the musical. You know, if they get exposure to that, you're keying into a different skill set that otherwise I don't think has been a focus of the education program here. So that's one thing that I really enjoy seeing develop. This year we did the elementary musical. I thought that was terrific, and it's really a bright spot for me personally in my service to the board.
Thank you. Mrs. Roll, the same question. What areas of our school need the most improvement in your opinion? Specifically, what do you hope to change?
I'm thinking about this. I come at a time when there are going to be some state mandated kind of changes in terms of reading. And I grew up with phonics. My kids grew up with phonics. In fact, I probably shouldn't say this too loudly, but my older kids were in some private schools where they learned how to read very quickly and were reading very fluently in 1st and 2nd grade. And then we came here, and I was very happy for the teachers and all that sort of stuff, but it was a different kind of program, and my next 2 kids weren't doing as well, and by that time I had friends who were homeschooling, so I homeschooled for a number of years, about 5 years each for them. And then they came back when it's time to get the advanced math you had and all the AP classes, and they did very, very, very well. And so I recognize that there's lots going on with reading. English is a hard language, and you can't sound out all the words. But I would be a cheerleader for that.
Thank you. Mrs. McNair, the same question. What areas of our school need the most improvement in your opinion, and specifically, what do you hope to change?
Sure. So I feel that the school, even though it is a smaller student base, provides quite a broad depth of classes and choices for the students as far as extracurriculars and in-school activities. One of the things that I have, as a parent, experienced, and I have heard from other parents as well, and I know the school is working on it, but I still think it could use improvement, is the communication between the classroom and the students and the parents, and as well as from the school to the community. I feel that there are times things are going on within the school or throughout the school that parents or even some of the students are unaware of, and it makes it difficult for everyone to fully participate or to enjoy what the school is offering. And so I would like to see that as something that is worked on in the future.
Excellent, thank you. The next question, Mr. Belenik, you will appreciate this one maybe. It might be a challenge because the next question is, what are your views on the arts, in particular spending in this area at Caledonia Mumford? So you can take a minute and elaborate.
First, let me say I am not an artist. I have very low skill. I did love music. I think music opens so many pathways for us. You know, I participated in music in college. It was a gift, and it's something that is a life skill. In terms of spending, yeah, I mean, our kids, you know, the school right now offers the after-school programming in the elementary school, and those sections are filled to capacity, really, and it's a money thing. And it's too bad. We work within a budget, and if there's not dollars there to allocate towards those things, it can't happen. So I am proud of the school for promoting those programs. I think they're very important, and I think they're really enjoyed by those kids. Beyond that, I mean, we do what we can to support it, but there's also a balance of need between, you know, the different demands here.
Mrs. Roll, the same question. What are your views on the arts and spending in this area?
Well, I think they're important. Just tonight on the news, they were talking about kids as they grow up, continuing in band kind of things. They were doing some type of orchestra or something like that for veterans in the veterans hospitals or something like that. And every time Kelly's Heroes comes by, you realize that they're alumni, you know, there. And it's something you have, elementary school and forward, you are making a basis for your creativity and your creative outlets in life. And I would like to say one real quick thing that I would like to say is, see, I was this home ec major that used to be, you know, that's what I grew up doing. So I'm a big foods and nutrition person and a big sewing person, and it breaks my heart that we don't have home and careers, especially if that room is still up there filled with bowls and things like that.
Do you want to teach?
So this is tricky because board
Yeah.
members can't get paid. But if you're already here.
So I used to, I volunteered for quite a number of years to come in and talk about quilts and stuff with the home and careers class, and affectionately called the quilt lady for a while. And which worked out really well until the kid was, you know, stuck a pin in each of his fingers and went like this, and I said, but anyhow, but I think all those things, arts and you guys need to go home and cook for your family, right? And you need to learn how to budget, and you need to learn how to, you know, wash your clothes, you know, and sew on a button, and you know, learn how to babysit, you know, and take care of kids and all that stuff. And all that's on top of your rather academics, but it's also gets you out of the academics for a while to do something else.
Great.
So.
Mrs. McNair, the same question. What are your views on the arts and spending in this area?
Well, I agree with the other two candidates that spending on the arts is really an integral part of the school budget. The exposure to arts and the participation in arts helps form a well-rounded, ready-for-life student. So even if the child is not playing a musical instrument or performing in the band or performing in the choir, they are getting exposure to that. They're not a good artist, which I never was. Just having the ability to try and see what other people are creating enriches your life. So to have those programs available and accessible to all of the students is definitely needs to be included in a priority in the budget.
Thank you. Mr. Belenek, back to you. The culture of our society right now can feel pretty divided, and sometimes that leaves people feeling like they are not being adequately represented. Can you talk to us a little bit about your thoughts and your goals around equity?
I do not watch the news, so I'm not privy to the culture being divided. Yeah, I think that we have to, I guess where I can go on that one is, we've had students move in district from different countries, you know, and they deserve the same education that every other student in the United States deserves. It's mandated. It's our requirement to provide that, and it's such an important part of building a successful, responsible society. Like what you're doing, you're becoming responsible citizens by being here. You're learning, you're going to take a little bit from this, and you're going to go forth and do things. And it's our job, no matter who you are or where you come from, to build that here. It's a huge responsibility that the district has. So.
Mrs. Roll, the same question. When you think about just the nation and sometimes how divided it can feel, how will you assist in making sure that Caledonia Mumford provides an education that is equitable?
Well, what I thought about this is that, you know, each student is, you know, a unique person, and we should be caring for them and helping them reach their potential, and they're capable of doing great things, and by exposing them to everything from English language to all the variety of academic things and everything, help them to find their niche. And I think we need to support them all. And the other thing that goes along with that is, this just sounds sort of foundational and basic, is basically teaching kids the golden rule. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know, be kind. Be kind to one another. Be respectful of one another. And those are things that can and should be taught from, you know, the earliest ages and through there. And I was reminded when I was thinking of some of these questions of a very pivotal sort of thing back in 6th grade. This is a long time ago. Back in 6th grade, when I was a kid, the girls would have these little notebooks, and they'd have on each page a question like, what's your favorite color and stuff, and they'd pass them around and you fill those in. Well, by the time you got to the end of the booklet, you'd have like, who do you like or who do you not like or something like that, and could get pretty catty. Anyhow, and so the girls, you know, we had something about one of the boys in the class, and the teacher very kindly, and I assume it wasn't just me, sat me down and was telling me how disappointed she was in me that I had written that. And it made such a big impression on me. So, I mean, teachers can do that. And, you know, and we can do that for each other to show respect.
Thank you. Mrs. McNair, the same question. When you think about how divisive things can get at times, how will you help us here at Caledonia Mumford create an educational opportunities that are equitable?
Sure. So I feel right now that there is a lot of divisiveness in the world. I feel people, instead of attacking issues and problems, try to attack people. And I feel at school, this is a great place and a great opportunity to teach children how to be kind to others, how to go at a problem and attack the issue and not the person. Because there can be two sides to a problem, and they can disagree, but you don't have to make it personal. And you can work on that. And that is something that needs to be taught from a very young age. And it needs to be taught throughout the school. And it goes to problems across the board. And it also goes to different people, different ideologies, different religions, different locations. When we think about attacking people that live in the city versus the suburb versus the country, or coming from one culture or another culture, or one religion or another, there doesn't have to be the personal attacks. You can have disagreements and talk and come to a conclusion, and you don't have to agree at the end of the day. But you also can include everyone's opinions and thoughts, and you can make them feel welcomed, and you can welcome their answers and their ideas, even if you don't agree with them, and even if your conclusion is different than theirs.
Thank you. Mr. Belenek, the last question of this evening, is there anything that, you would, in your preparation this evening, that you would like to say to the voters before they come out on Tuesday, May 21st to vote in this election?
Yeah, I think that, as Mr. Malasani and Mr. Nardone showed earlier, a 70% approval rate of our budget every year is really speaks to the dedication that the professional staff and Mr. Malasani have put into the budget and being responsible to the community over the years. I feel like, working in the elementary school on the compact committee, the engagement we get with the community is just terrific. And I see, the classes going out and doing fundraising through service projects and volunteering their time. That's a big deal. People see that all the time. Whether you realize it or not, there's always people watching you. And I feel like the students here represent the school well in all ways, and we're proud of you to see what you're doing, so, yeah,
Very good.
well done.
Yeah, yeah.
Mrs. Roll, it's your turn. One final thing that you would like to say?
I guess the only thing I see here that we didn't really touch on is about the community involvement. I mean, I think as the board, you're in a position where you're watching off after the students, making sure they're getting the programs they need and things like that. You're also listening to what the teachers are saying, the administration, but we also do need to listen to the community. And I think when there are sometimes some difficulties, it might just because of communication. You didn't tell the community that we were going to do X, Y, and Z, like change the mascot, or something like that, or didn't give them enough input or something, or time to, So I think communication is a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mrs. McNair, final question to you. Is there anything you'd like to tell the voters before they come out to vote on Tuesday, May 21st from 12 to 9?
I think overall I would just like to thank the voters for their involvement and their appreciation of the hard work that the board and the staff and the faculty has done in this community. And to just remind them that this really is an important thing and an important decision to make, to come out and show their support or their objection to the budget and the candidates that they have before them, and that just coming out and voting is pretty much the most important thing at this point.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.